For 3 days, Russian artillery shelled the power plant in Zaporizhia. Yesterday, a fire broke out at the facility, which forced employees to disconnect the last operating reactor from the Ukrainian energy system. There are still 2 experts from the International Atomic Energy Agency on the plant's premises, who monitor the situation on an ongoing basis. For the second time, due to the Russian provocation, the power plant in Zaporizhia was one step away from a radiation disaster. It is very telling that Russia is doing this right now, just before the findings of international experts. The shelling of the territory of the Zaporizhia Nuclear Power Plant means that Russia is ignoring the report and mocking the international community. In the evening, a special meeting of the UN Security Council will be held, at which the subject of the shelling of the nuclear power plant in Zaporizhia will be discussed.
All the experts and also Mr. Grossi itself understands that this is the main reason, and what is needed to be done is deoccupation, but still they cannot directly propose this because of limitation of the mandate. And I think this is the situation for further consideration how to what measures to make just to increase this mandate of the IAEA, like an organization which controls nuclear safety throughout the world. So they just do not have enough abilities to react in this particular situation.
Another set of Russian missiles fell on Kharkiv this morning. The missiles hit, among others, a residential building in the central part of the city. Kharkiv is located close to the border with Russia, which is why it has been under constant fire since the beginning of the war. As a result of today's attack, 3 people were killed. There was an explosion and the building visibly shuddered. First pieces of tiles hit my baby's back. Then the ceiling collapsed on my head. Immediately, very thick smoke began to rise. We tried to get out, but the door was blocked. In Donbass, the Ukrainian forces are achieving further successes. About 350 Russian soldiers died yesterday. Due to the increased activity of Ukrainian forces in the east, the referendum planned by the occupation authorities was cancelled. The vote was to settle the question of joining the occupied Kherson region to Russia. Meanwhile, the owners of vineyards in Ukraine are recording enormous losses. Difficulties with the export of vinified crops is a big problem for the inhabitants of Koblevo. For the locals, the sale of wine is the main source of income. In the local market, alcohol consumption decreased by 20% compared to the situation before the war. Sales of sparkling wines fell by half. At the moment, our situation is very precarious because there are many factors beyond our control. We only do the simplest jobs and try to support our soldiers. Ukraine's central bank forecasts indicate that inflation at the end of this year will amount to around 30%. The country's economy is burdened with the effects of the war. Cargoes from Ukrainian ports in the Black Sea account for just over a quarter of the pre-war volume. Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki believes that Vladimir Putin will put pressure on the Ukrainian economy to break the strategic stalemate on the front. Putin's plan may be that he will now try to starve Ukraine. Yesterday, the New York Times, citing the findings of U.S. intelligence, reported that Russia is planning to purchase millions of artillery and short-range missiles from North Korea. According to Washington, such a move by the Kremlin proves the effectiveness of the economic sanctions imposed on Russia. Since it can't be bought anywhere anymore, and it seems that China doesn't really want to sell it, Russia probably went to North Korea, which probably has former Russian and possibly still Soviet equipment in stock. Although the Russian offensive has clearly slowed down and the Ukrainian troops are trying to take the initiative, experts say it is too early to talk about possible peace talks at the moment. Let us remember that new units with practically the strength of the corps are being mobilized and sent to the south of Ukraine. 419,000 people have left Russia since the beginning of this year. That is twice as many as in the corresponding period of the previous year. However, soon the migration movement from Russia may be limited as a result of further sanctions by the European Union.